Hi, welcome to Atlassian Tech TV. My name's Chris Mountford and I take you inside Atlassian to show you how we make software. In this two-part episode, I interviewed Confluence developer Denise Unterwurzacher. In part one, we discuss career paths into technology and the status of technical support. What does it take to be a great support engineer? What skills and talents should support engineers have? Denise has great experience in support. It's safe to say she has definitely tried turning it off and on again. In part two, we tackle a big topic and an important one: women in tech. Denise has some surprising insights on this and shares some of her experiences from previous workplaces. As a man in tech, one thing I'm sure of is that addressing the issues faced by women in tech needs to involve listening to what women say about it. Which reminds me, I'm listening to you. Please share your thoughts in the comments. Oh, and share this episode with your friends and colleagues. Here's Denise. Hello, my name's Chris Mountford, and today I'm here with Denise. Now you'll have to tell me, Denise, I'm apologising already, but how do you pronounce your surname?
It's Unterwurzacher.
Unterwurzacher.
Yeah, that's actually really good. Well done.
Okay, and that's a German name, is it?
It's Austrian.
Austrian, all right. Don't mix that up.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. And you're a developer in Confluence.
Yes, I am now, yes.
All right. So what I like to ask people when I interview is, how did you get into computers? How did you start in software development? And then also maybe how did you start at Atlassian?
Okay. I suppose I got into computers probably because of my father. He's a programmer and he's always been into computers, so I sort of grew up watching him fix my computer when I was a kid. Cool. But ironically, I didn't go into computers at all after school. I didn't study them at school, and I went to university for a year trying to do social work.
Oh yeah.
And that wasn't for me, so I ended up leaving, and I just worked for a year, and then I found myself one night lying in bed, envisaging a program to do what I would have had to do that day at work, without knowing anything about software development or languages or anything. I was just sort of devising how it would interact in my head and how it could have done what I had to do manually. And I probably spent about 3 hours sort of making this program up in my head and realised that I should go and do something with that. So
Cool.
The next day I then went and found a TAFE course in programming and learnt to program in Java.
Right, so that's a local college.
Yes, yeah. Sort of one step below university degrees, but it's more about sort of practical on-the-job training.
Yeah, I found my university degree to be quite impractical, actually. Well, compared to what I really wanted to do, which was probably more like that. I studied, computer science and stuff, and I found that it was very theoretical, and although programming was a part of the course, that it was de-emphasized as a sort of primary goal. And so, I wanted to make programs. I wanted to create things from those same thoughts, and that's why I got into it. But I think there's plenty of paths to it. So
I actually never went to university for technology at all.
Yeah, I find that the sector's growing so fast that universities really have a hard time keeping up. I mean, they're great repositories of knowledge, but the body of knowledge is evolving so quickly. So how did you get started at Atlassian? What was your... Because you started in support.
Yes, yeah. I did. So 3.5 years ago now, I was working as a developer actually for a year. Before that, I'd done about 8 years as a support engineer, always kind of trying to get into development. And I did development for a year, and the company I was with went under, so I was made redundant. And I knew a girl who was working here, and so she referred me into support at Atlassian.
Cool. All right. So tell us a bit about. You've obviously got a lot of experience with support. Tell a bit about how support works here. I mean, how we do it, and maybe if you can contrast with how it's done elsewhere.
I think support at Atlassian is it's different to support that I've worked in anywhere else. It's support in most places is kind of seen as a way to get into technology, and it's kind of often seen as somewhere you have to do your time in so that you can get to the job that you really want to do. Whereas Atlassian take the attitude that support is, it's a career in and of itself, and it takes very specialised skills. And actually, they're skills that a lot of developer types don't have, and a lot of extremely technical types often don't have.
Yeah.
So it's very different in that respect, in that it's very well respected, and it's somewhere where we look for people in support who love support and who kind of have that real passion for helping people and helping customers. So it's very much not a place where you just come to do your time. It's a place where you come because you love what you do.
So what are those skills?
I think that the biggest thing that makes you a good support engineer is empathy.
Right.
And I've
Who'd have thought?
I know. I've kind of boiled it down to that over time, is that you have to be able to really, really put yourself in the customer's shoes to understand, what's motivating them, why they're upset about what they're upset about, why they care about the bit that's not working, and how it actually affects them and their business. And I find a lot of the time people who get very deep into the technical side of things don't get much exposure to that, and they don't have much kind of maybe natural empathy for how that looks. If you run into a problem with the feature that you built, what's the impact to that person, And I mean, a lot of it is also understanding, how they're speaking to you and what that says about how they're feeling and what's going on with them at the time.
Yeah. So do you think that's what, perhaps you have a natural empathy, or do you think that's something that, because you mentioned you went into social work, I can imagine that to be a challenging support-like situation, maybe with a lot more drama, I'm not even sure.
I never actually went into it. I was sort of just studying it, but I think I'm glad I didn't end up there, because I think I have too much empathy, and I find it very hard to disconnect from people and their problems. I take too much of it on personally, so I probably would have ended up with 20 people living on my living room floor if I had done that.
Yeah.
But I think you have to have a natural level of empathy to be good at support, but it is something that you can kind of learn and train.
That's what I was going to ask. Is it a skill you can learn? Like, is because it's so important, obviously then what we want to do is bottle it and develop it and enhance it.
I think it is. I mean, a lot of people come in with a level of it that then just needs to be kind of built up. In support, we constantly have conversations about our customers and about their frame of mind and about what's important to them, and really seeing them as people. I think a lot of the time in a lot of support organisations there's a temptation to sort of belittle the customer, I suppose, and to kind of roll your eyes and say, oh, stupid customers.
They're dumb,
They're dumb because they didn't know this crazy technical thing that I know.
Yeah, that's so toxic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And a lot of people do come in initially into even support at Atlassian and kind of make a joke that puts a customer down or something, and when they do, it's immediately stopped and shut down.
Right.
It's just a way you can't talk about customers that way and have that empathy for them and try and make things better for them, and you need that to be good at what you do.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we've all seen those jokes on the internet about support cases that are maybe outlandish and terrible support cases, and support people obviously have to bear a lot of that maybe emotionally draining confrontation, or where they have to continually put themselves in the customer's shoes, in high volume and get that throughput to try and deal with people's problems, but at the same time solve those problems and have that sort of human contact with the person, so they feel like, all right, that was good. That was a good support experience. I had a problem. Now it's been dealt with to some extent, or it's completely solved, or whatever. So how does that contrast the support culture? Because Atlassian is known for having a culture, or having culture in general, and the discussion about modern, enlightened and profitable companies often focuses on culture, which is supposed to start from the top and all that. So how would you contrast the culture that you've experienced in the support part of the organisation, and now being a developer on Confluence? You mentioned to me just earlier you haven't been there very long, so I guess you've got to, it's fresh in your mind what's different.
Yeah. I think I've been a developer for 2.5 weeks now.
Yeah. But you were a developer before.
I was a developer at another company before, yeah. And I've dealt with the development team a lot in my role over the last 3 years anyway.
Yeah, we'll come back to that.
Yeah, I think I don't have a really well-formed opinion of what the culture's like in development right now.
How about Confluence versus others? It's a bit of rivalry there.
There is a little bit. I don't know. I don't think I've ever really bought into it. We don't really have the same rivalry in support.
Right.
It's more of a kind of everyone together, one team kind of thing.
I want to say that we're like that. I was in the Jira development team for a long time, and as the company's grown, we were in one space, and we were in another building with multiple areas, and I think I always noticed that the Confluence team were much less tolerant of good music. Because come Friday afternoon and the beers come out, then someone wants to put on some music, and
maybe it's just because we're working harder than Jira.
All right, got me. Yeah, that's probably it.
Yeah.
So what's your day-to-day job like now? So support, you mentioned, you're putting yourself in the customer's shoes. You've got a lot of contact with people who have got problems or issues, and you're trying to obviously look above that din and that workflow and try to feed back improvements to products to reduce the number of problems our customers have. I mean, that's obviously a really important feedback loop. Maybe there are some benefits to having spent time in support to then go into development.
I think so, yeah. I think, and that's one of the reasons why I chose to go into a bug fixing role in Confluence, is because I think with my experience, that's sort of where I can have the most immediate benefit as well.
Got some bugs in mind you want to fix?
Yeah, of course,
right.
Of course. All of them. I know it's a fire hose, but even just in the last couple of weeks, I've sort of been able to delay a point release for a couple of days in order to get something into it that's going to really benefit customers.
Right.
And I think that's kind of one of the things that you learn in support, is you start to understand how customers use our products in a way that you don't in development so much. One of the reasons that I kind of put the hold on this release is because it's going to be the last point release in this particular series. And I know, in support, we know that enterprises tend to go to the very last point release. So when we release 5.8, they're going to go to the last one of 5.7, and they're not going to get onto 5.8.
5.7.9, 5.7.10, 5.7 whatever.
Exactly. And they're not going to get onto 5.8 until 5.9 is released, and then they're going to go to the last one of 5.8,
Yeah.
And sort of that's the point at which they start their testing, and that testing will roll on for months and months, and then they're going to do one upgrade, and then they're going to stick it out for as long as they can.
Right, so upgrading is, okay.
Whereas
so
development often see this bug fix, why don't we just put it into the next major release? There's actually a very good argument to be made for putting it into the last point release, because that's the one that a lot of the bigger companies are going to end up sticking with.
Yeah, so do you think people avoid the .0s, the something point?
I think so. Yeah, I think that's just common across every piece of software. I mean, I know Microsoft is one of the big ones where you'd never ever go to, you'd never be the guinea pig.
Don't go full .0.
No, exactly.
Right.
So you always wait for the service packs of Microsoft before you go anywhere near them. It's an enterprise thing. The enterprise don't want to be on the bleeding edge. They want stability and reliability.
Right. I guess it depends on what the version means. The whole semantic versioning, SEMVer idea is that the numbers in between the points have a real meaning, and that's probably not consistent. I mean, you mentioned what you just thought of Microsoft there. I'm sure you're not alone on that. And by contrast, I think Gmail's out of beta now, right? But it was beta for many years. People were using it while it's still beta, and what does that mean? Beta means, well, it's not done yet. We haven't figured out how to, monetize it. What's the quality guarantee? I mean, if we're talking empathy, how do we convey that?
I think that's a really difficult question to answer. I think the versions that particular types of customers want to be on are so different. Some people do want that. They want the feature as soon as it's out. And some people don't want any features at all. They just want stability. I think we need to be able to cater to those who do want that bleeding edge and those who absolutely don't, and to be able to be good for both of those and deliver what both of those types of customers want.
Yeah, and I guess especially with a product like Confluence, where it's so open-ended. I mean, what you use Confluence for and how you use it, compared to some of our other products like Bitbucket, it's all about code. It's around the domain model of software. So I guess what I wanted to come back to is the feedback channel between development and support.
Yep.
Because that's something I found as a developer. I thought one of the most useful mechanisms, and I agree with you about empathy, the most useful mechanisms for helping to build that awareness of the users and the customers' sort of mindset, or how they think and what trouble they have, is to spend some time as a developer on support.
Yes.
And we have this as a role, right?
Yeah.
The DOS, it doesn't only mean denial of service for us at DOS or disk operating system. For us, this means developer on support.
Yeah.
How has it worked from your point of view while you were on support?
So what we tend to do in Confluence is we have roughly 3-week rotations of people from the bug fix team come down and sit with us in support, and they tend to sort of help with the problems where we need someone to dig into the code.
Right.
So I think in the old days, they used to kind of be a last point of escalation. But what we've discovered over time is that, with operational things, often the developers don't have any experience at all, with proxies, with SSL, that kind of thing, I once helped a very, very experienced developer set up a proxy.
Right.
So they might not be the best people to answer a question about proxies, but they are the best people to answer questions about code. So we tend to go to them with, here's a problem we need you to dig into the code for.
Yeah.
I think the benefits of it are amazing. People often, sometimes they have a bit of a difficult time because the problem's really difficult. Like we're a very experienced support organisation, and if we can't solve it,
you're going to only give the hairballs.
Yeah, of course.
That was my experience most recently. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So often, people kind of are a bit surprised by how complicated the problems can get, actually, and how difficult it is to troubleshoot what's going on, which I think gives them, it gives developers a great kind of experience of what it's actually like for the customers, Because some of the customers that we have are just incredibly technical, and they know way more than we know about their systems and the integration, and they're amazing, and they've gone to a point where they can't fix it, then they've come to us, and then we've gone to a point where we also can't fix it, working with them, and then there's a poor developer on the end who sort of gets that.
Well, that's the job too. I mean, that's what I suppose that's what really where you're seeing it's sort of transformative change, where the product itself is being modified, hopefully improved to make it more supportable. Make it so that it requires less effort, and that these hairballs can't happen. We kind of exclude that category. And I've seen that happen over the years. There'll be a number of incidences of support cases in a certain area of the product. Like Jira's mail handling was an area where we would always see difficulty, not just bugs, but just people getting stuck because it was really difficult to use. And so it's been an area where we've wanted to improve it. And the same, these things change from year to year as we focus on one area and improve that, and then everyone's, okay, that's good now, this part, it still sucks here. And so when are you going to do this? Workflow designer, it was impossible for people to build workflows that they wanted. So we put effort on that. So what are some of the things that you're seeing in the sort of Confluence, development pipeline? Some of the things you're excited to work on or looking forward to work on, since you're in the bug fix team now, right?
I am, and I'm going to be permanent in the bug fix team, so I'm not actually going to be moving to a feature team. Yeah. So, in terms of what's in the pipeline, I guess, for me, it's just actually being able to have that impact in resolving bugs. And because I am going to be, we do 3-month rotations in the bug fix team generally, but I'm going to be a permanent resource in there, then hopefully I can kind of take on some more complicated or long-running things, and hopefully have some more impact that way and kind of provide a bit of continuity as well. Yeah, hopefully.
I had I think one of the first bug master roles in Jira, so we have our own T-shirt. So to sort of schedule which bugs go when and what the priorities are and whether something's a bug or not a bug.
Yeah.
How's that? Have you ever heard of the FUG?
Yeah, the feature that's actually a bug.
Or is it the opposite?
Who knows?
Report it as a bug.
Yeah.
App doesn't have this feature. It doesn't make margaritas.
Yeah.
Expected behavior can make margaritas.
Yeah.
No, that's not a bug.
Or it's generally the I can't believe the system did this thing, and everyone on the other end is like, oh, that's something we built on purpose.
Yeah. Yeah, it's deliberately like that. That's a wrap for another episode of Atlassian Tech TV. Please subscribe and follow us on Twitter. We've also got tons of stuff on our blog at developer.atlassian.com.